Welcome to the Go With Your Flow podcast. My name is ERIN Ryan. I am a certified Reiki master teacher of 5-element Dragonfire Reiki and the founder. I have a master's degree in traditional Chinese medicine and a bachelor's in nutrition. I am the founder and owner of Crystal Lake Reiki LLC, and it is my passion in life to help healers to heal themselves, to heal their clients, and also to make and lay the foundations for their satisfying, sexy, sustainable six-figure business. And I am so happy and overjoyed to be welcoming one of my clients, Stephen Warner. He is a sexual healer, a certified Reiki master teacher of Holy Fire Reiki, and also a 5-element Dragonfire Reiki practitioner. Today, we are going to be diving into sacred sexual healing and the divine masculine. So thank you so much for being here today, Stephen.
Good morning. It's so good to be here.
Oh, yes. So let's just start at the beginning of your sexual healing journey, because I've watched you, right, from even before you became a sacred sexual healer to where you are now with a flourishing and you're continuing to build momentum in your sexual healing business.
Yeah, absolutely. So it all started back when I'm gonna back up even to my past relationship. So I used to be married to a man. I'm a gay male myself, and I used to be in a relationship that was quite constrictive in terms of sexual exploration and just all things sexual. And so when I made the move to radically choose myself and leave my husband, go out on my own, and really just start supporting myself entirely, I opened up this really wonderful and beautiful space to start exploring myself sexually fully, right? There was no one else around. It was my space, my house, my life, my world. And suddenly I had the freedom that used to not so much be there to really start engaging with myself and exploring myself sexually. And what else is coming through that's really important to share was I was raised in the Catholic Church. I was raised deeply ingrained in the Catholic Church. So I was an altar boy for 4 years. I washed feet with the priest during some of those ceremonies. I was confirmed. My mom was my CCD teacher, that's religious education teacher. And we went to church like once or twice a week. So I call it, my experience of all of this was true spiritual gaslighting, is what I called it, because I learned I was dirty, I was wrong, I was sinful for my sexuality. And so that was a whole bag of worms. That was a whole, 15 years of spiritual conditioning and trauma where I just learned a really backwards way of looking at myself sexually. And when I finally reached the place where I had the space and the freedom and the internal safety to start exploring myself freely in the sexual realm, I really started to discover a lot of potency there.
Wow, that is incredible that you were able to come from there to where you are now. And I also, I experienced spiritual gaslighting. I was in a cult, so it wasn't religious, it was spiritual. But my guess is there are some things, right, that overlap between those two experiences. So that's incredible, especially as a gay man, right, being in a religious arena. Was it a church that accepted that or no?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I was fortunate because there wasn't preaching, there wasn't gospel about explicitly gay things, but it was known. It was like, the whole don't ask, don't tell thing. You didn't see gay expression in the church and in religious ed and in the Bible and in all this education we had around what was the right way. There were these underlying tones of gay is bad, gay is sinful. There's like the book of Leviticus that talks about, if a man lays with another man, he should be something with blood. It was really disgusting and gross and violent. And that was the underlying tone of the religious community that I was brought up in.
So then how are you able then to break away from that? Like what was the journey there?
So it was a winding road And I think for purposes of this episode, I'll kind of fast forward into being in this space of mine, living on my own and starting to explore myself sexually. So I I had always wanted to like take photos and videos of myself. I'd always wanted to like capture my sexual essence and like put it on the internet and engage with other people around it. I had this desire to just like be seen and explore. And so that's what I started doing. And I ended up creating a OnlyFans account and starting to really explore myself sexually. I started to like go to the sex store and buy toys. And I started to like play with myself in ways that never really felt safe before. And that's what I did. I also started getting deep into the practices of existential kink, which is a book that you introduced me to. And this book has been all about using sexual experiences and using high sensation to clear things like shame out of the body. And in this, the way that I applied this to my life, so I created an OnlyFans account and I started showcasing my sexuality and receiving really positive, wonderful external validation for it. And in this exploration, I started getting into, and this is a little bit taboo, so it's maybe not everybody's cup of tea.
Okay, so on that note, what we're about to dive into, like Steven said, it is taboo. It's off the beaten path in the sexual realm. So if for any reason anybody who's watching this or listening to this is not feeling that, going into that space right now, feel free to pause this and come back to it or just leave it altogether. All right, you've been warned.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Steven.
Yeah, I started really exploring my kinks and my sexuality in like all of these like shadowy aspects that were previously kind of stuffed down and hidden. And what I got into was piss play, or we'll call it water sports. That's a word I like to use. It's easier, it rolls off the tongue better. And water sports for me was something that was so far away from this sexual version of myself that I had known before. And I mentioned this book, Existential Kink, and this book applies practices of um, tapping into our sexuality and high sensation in the body to move unwanted feelings out of the body. So relating this back to the church and the religion, I learned that I was very dirty. I learned to be shameful of my sexuality. I learned that I was wrong, right? Now enter water sports, enter piss play. Like think about like the messiness and the dirtiness and the wrongness it is to like splash your piss on yourself and like enjoy and play in such a messy, quote unquote, gross and wrong avenue of your sexuality. And it was this really beautiful thing because the external validation of other people being like, oh my God, that's so hot. Like, oh my God, like I'm actually really into this. It's so wonderful to see somebody else embracing it so fully, created this avenue for me to just dive in and really enjoy this wet and messy and gross thing. And again, circling it back to existential kink, this book talks about like the only difference between pain and pleasure is a conscious connotation around it. So it provides the axiom that like everything is just high sensation. If you can lean into the high sensation of the things that we don't like about ourselves or the feelings and emotions that we don't want to experience, if we can just lean into the high sensation, we can merge the conscious with the unconscious and allow it to move out of us. So diving into all of this dirty, filthy, gross piss sex play was a way for me to move so much shame out of my body and a way for me to remove so much of this like dirty concept that I had about myself, because now I was dirty, but I was loving it. I was getting filthy and I was doing really shameful, wrong, gross things, but I was rejoicing in the pleasure and having a blast doing it. So it really just like vacated my body of so much of that spiritual conditioning.
Wow. Okay. So as someone, I have not ventured into those realms that you're speaking of, but even if that's the case, I so identify with what you're talking about around sexuality, around the shame and the dirtiness of it. And I absolutely, and I know a lot of the people who are listening or watching will identify with that. And so this is how you uniquely, right? And a lot of, sounds like a lot of other people were able to move that energy and do deep healing work around it in a way that felt pleasurable to you. The other thing I want to say is some of the things, no, all of the things that I love the most in my life are things that others, like it's off the beaten path. So many others judge and think it's weird or think it's woo woo or think it's, XYZ. So I identify on that realm as well. It's like, but this is what makes me come alive. This is what actually makes me feel like me. So whatever way you're getting there, as long as it's consensual, right? Like that's so that must be so liberating to be able to talk about it and to venture into this realm and to remove that kind of shame out of your body. And yeah, the book you're talking about, Existential Kink by Carolyn Elliott, it's an incredible book and it changed my life. And I know it changed your life as well. And being able to transform, like you said, the shame and the guilt and like where we feel bad and dirty and wrong into this high sensation of very much a turn on and a very pleasurable experience. So that's incredible. So then did that start to play into your sexual healing business as well? Did you incorporate that?
Yes. So the way that it kind of evolved, one of the really beautiful things that was happening in these like content platforms like OnlyFans and Just for Fans is another one. I was getting so much feedback from other people who shared this same kink as me, saying like, you've inspired me to explore this more. Like this is something that like I actually really want to do, but I'm too shameful or I'm too afraid to express it to my partner or explore it myself. But seeing somebody like you just own it so radically, like you've inspired me to like accept this part of myself. And I was like, this is crazy. This is so beautiful. And it really awakened this instinct in me that was like, wow, there's really a latent capacity with our sexual energies when we pair it with the desire to grow and heal and shift, shadow within the body. And from there, I did a couple other things. Like I created a Telegram group to provide a space for anybody who had shame around their sexuality to hold a safe container for anybody to just vocalize it. Because I think just the act of expressing areas in our system where we've got shame, especially around our sexuality, whether it be desires or experiences that we've had or anything, just a safe place to express it starts to move the energy. So I did that, and this it was a really beautiful thing, and I was getting such amazing feedback, and it was a gateway and a doorway to this man, Mark Paradis, reaching out to me, who's known as the Orgasmic Shaman, and he invited me to a couple retreats that he was hosting out on the West Coast here in Palm Springs. And between then and the retreats, I was seeing Reiki clients, and I had this curiosity to start incorporating like pleasure and sensuality and some of this like sacral sexual energy into a Reiki session, which I had never seen done before. I had never seen done before. And it was a bold thing for me to like go out and reach out to other gay men clients and be like, hey, like, do you want to incorporate like healing and sex work and pay me for it? You know what I'm
Oh my
saying? Like,
God. Yeah, that sounds so edgy.
yeah,
Wow.
it was like, this is prostitution in a way. Like, this is like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is like really, there's so much shadow, there's so much judgment, there's so much collective like ick
Yeah.
around this.
And I just have to interject because I'm so excited.
Please.
Something like to me, it's like the sacred prostitution, sacred sexual healing, right? Like thousands of years ago, like it wasn't thought of as a dirty, bad thing. Like the women, when the men came back from war, would help to heal them with their sacred sexual healing. Like it was, they were revered, they were honored, they were respected. And so it's become this dirty thing, right, in our society. But I see a reclamation happening, and you are one of the people I see who is boldly stepping into that, right? So how did it go after you started doing that? What did they
Well,
say?
it was so interesting because like when I first started, I was like, oh, like I'm not gonna make you calm. Like this isn't that. This definitely isn't that. And I had my own judgments and my own like feelings around it. And I really just started by doing mutually nude Reiki sessions with men where I'm also like I'm not ignoring their genitals. I'm touching all parts of them. I'm providing Reiki to all parts of them. And when my hand is on their cock or on a more sensitive area, there's arousal, there's stimulation. And my theory behind all of this was this sexual energy, it's potent, it's deep in the sacral. And if we can awaken that and start moving that energy on top of the Reiki that's flowing, we can create a really synergistic effect to move even more energy. And so the feedback was wonderful. The feedback was like, wow, this is something I've never really experienced before, but thank you. And it was just probably 3 or 4 men that I did this with, but it was a wonderful intro to me really building the capacity to have the courage to dive even deeper into this kind of sacred prostitution realm.
Wow, that's beautiful. And when you're talking about like we're not ignoring, right? There's something really potent about that, that not ignoring this part of the body, right? And I can only imagine the type of trust that has to be cultivated, or that is between you and your clients, to even venture into that part of things. So what did you notice that your clients were experiencing after, especially if they were Reiki clients before, and then when you started to incorporate sexuality? And I want to say too, before you answer, this is a very normal thing that I see in leaders and in my clients, is we start to combine very naturally and synergistically all these different things that we have. It's like an artist, right? It's like different paints, different mediums, and they come together, and this is what forms our unique modalities that come out of us, and our unique medicine that comes through us as well. So I just want to acknowledge what a sacred process this is, and how much that it is shamed. Like even for me, when I was first starting out, I started to incorporate lots of different things into my Reiki sessions, because Reiki is so easily synergized with things, and was shamed by one of my teachers for that. And that's not incorporating sacred sexual healing into it. So I just want to say how brave and courageous it is for you to not only be venturing into that realm, but to be willing to talk about it in a public forum. So with that, how did your clients respond?
Well, thank you so much. They loved it. It was they really the main expression that most of them conveyed was the love that they felt and the connection that they felt. And I think a big part of this is the lack of ignoring parts of them. And I think there's so much stigma and there's so much shame and there's so much collective wounding around the body and our genitals and our sexual nature, that to dive into a healing session where none of that is ignored and all of that is embraced and engaged with, it really was a completely new experience of them that they very much cherish and very much like thanked me for.
Wow, that is beautiful. Like my heart was just like blooming when you were talking about that. And what I got was just like the message you're sending to them is all of you is worthy of love. Right? Nothing, like you said, nothing's ignored, nothing's excluded, all of you. And so in a physical realm, to be touched in a physical way that feels so safe and supportive and deeply healing, I think and that's why to me it's sacred sexual healing. It's not like some people use sexual experiences as a way to avoid the body actually, and to distract themselves from their pain. Whereas what you do is actually bringing them deeper into the body, deeper into presence, and really completely rewiring and recoding their nervous system. Like, I have chills as I'm saying that. And that is in a very short amount of time, right? You're able to undo, yeah, more chills, a tremendous amount of damage. And so to be able to hold a safe, sacred space in this way, like it's so beautiful. And I also love that you're willing to receive money for this, because the healer wound is such a big thing, right? Not being willing to be supported financially for our gifts, especially in the sexual healing realm. So I think this is just really beautiful and speaking to that. And it also, one of the things I'm really been looking at, and I know a lot of my clients have been, and everyone riding the same wave, is this divine masculine piece, like the healing of that, or the God wounds, right? Even from what you were experiencing in the religious realm, right? What I have experienced is the reclamation of that potency of feeling safe, of feeling protected, and also feeling guided, right? And that to me is the divine masculine that you as a man are providing, and also in this realm of helping your clients feel so safe, so seen, so protected. And shame cannot live in those circumstances, right? Like in that environment, it gets naturally moved out of the body. So that is so beautiful.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And bringing up like these concepts of God, it is a wonderful segue into this retreat that I went to. And this retreat was really where I was able to be opened up to a whole world of people who are doing this work that I had no idea about. And the man, Mark Paradis, the orgasmic shaman, as he is known, has dedicated like the past decade plus of his life to really deepening into this medicine and practicing it and connecting with God and incorporating that with sex. And without going into the details of the actual retreat itself, the principles that were provided, my biggest takeaway was every act of sex is an attempt to return home to God. And that is just something that I'm letting sink deeper and deeper into me, because at first it was okay, like okay, that makes sense, but now as I've been contemplating it and really sinking deeper into it, I wholeheartedly believe that it's true.
This is so good, because like this is, everything comes back to this oneness, right? And you talked about like ignoring certain parts of ourselves, and now we're bringing it full circle to God and our sexual nature are, they're not separate, they are one, they are in unison. And so to make that connection between them, that our sexuality is divine, that we are divine. And I absolutely love what you just said about every every act of sexual act, right, is us trying to come home to God. And for anybody listening, when we use the word God, we use it loosely, right? It's not in a religious context. It's, you can say spirit, you can say universe, creator, whatever feels good to you. But the point is this divinity that we're able to connect to. And I think that's so beautiful, and it's so safe. And it's also incredibly powerful, and it's incredibly potent. And when people start to connect to themselves in this way, and we both know the sacral energies they're all about creativity. And so the creatrix comes online within us, and then all sorts of things can be birthed through us, whether you're a man or a woman. Like all of these inspired thoughts, all of this medicine that actually breaks a lot of control and conditioning. And that's not exactly wanted by everyone who is overseeing these structures and moving and conditioning people in a very fear and shame based place. So it makes sense to me, right? If we can be turned against our own sacred sexual nature, if we can feel shame for it, if we can judge it as wrong or dirty or bad, then we are not able to connect to God within us and our potency and our power, our creative power, which is why we're here, by the way. Like the type of work you're doing unlocks why we all came to this planet, which is to create. And we can't create unless we are in play. That's what play and creation are, two things together. And in order to be able to play, we have to have safety. And so you're creating this beautiful environment and moving them through this process, guiding them as the sacred masculine, holding that container back to God, like back to their bodies. And it's incredibly potent work. Ooh, is it edgy for you knowing that, like, okay, technically, like, this is not an okay thing for me to be doing? How do you navigate that? Have you had any issues? It's just like my curious nature coming in.
Yeah, so I think this kind of speaks to where I started with just doing mutually nude Reiki sessions and how I touched her like, oh, I'm not going to make you come. Like that's not what this is. I had my own judgments around it, but after this retreat, I discovered a whole world of people doing this, and that helped. That helped. I also discovered avenues to start getting more clients, and then I really moved into much more deeper sexual work in these containers. And what was it like? There's a part of me that is hesitant to like build websites and really like put all of this out there more concretely into the world because technically it's prostitution and that's not legal in most states. Um, and I know I've actually had a couple like it's all been in my mind, but I've had scares at whether it's my own paranoia or just triggering past bouts of like mania where the way that a client was responding to me when scheduling a session and the way that they were like asking about what exactly is involved, I got like triggered in my mind thinking that on the other end of this, there's like cops and they're like waiting for me to say the right thing in order to come book me. And that speaks to like past trauma of mine, but it has been quite edgy to put this work out there in the world and be okay and trust that like I'm supported and trust that there that this work is needed and the universe has my back here and I it is in the back of my mind. It is in the back of my mind, but it's like I'm moving forward anyways. I can't not.
This really speaks to, what I talk about, which is the priest or priestess to oracle path and the diamond path. Like it all segues into that, because the difference between the priest or priestess and the oracle is, we'll go with priest since you're a man, right? Is hiding, right? So the priest or the priestess can still hide, right? Whereas the oracle, like the oracle has fully come into the light and fully come out, and there's no going back. I have one of my clients, she just published a book. I'm so proud. I'm so happy for her. I'm going to have her on the podcast too. And she is like, oh my God, what have I done? Right. In the best way, because there's no going back once you have fully outed yourself. And that's not even when we're talking about a possibility of some like legal stuff happening. So this speaks to becoming the no matter what version of yourself, which is like, I feel so strongly about this. I believe so much in what I'm doing. And this is my purpose. This is what I came here to do and to be and to choose, that even in the face, right, of obstacles, potential obstacles, I choose it anyway. Even in the face of loss, and I choose it anyway. And that's a very edgy and also liberating space to be in, because you truly belong to yourself at that point. And that is incredible. And it's not for the faint of heart. It is not a path for everyone. And that's why I say the diamond path it's a path of intense heat and pressure over a very long period of time. People who walk the diamond path, we have undergone so much hardship that it would collapse and crush, and has other people in similar situations. And I happen to know, Stephen, because we've worked one-on-one so intensively and gone so deep, that you absolutely have had things that it's like, wow, how did this human being get from there to where you are today, right? So the diamond path defies all logic. It does not make sense how we are where we are at. And it is because we are actually changing. We're being forged into the version of ourselves, the diamond, that is virtually indestructible. Like the only thing that can cut a diamond is another diamond, right? And yet, if you were to take a hammer and smash a diamond, it's brittle. Like it actually has a high rate of being brittle. And that's the vulnerability piece, right? It's incredibly vulnerable walking this path and doing this, but look at how you feel in your body, right? How your clients are responding to your medicine, how much liberation you have brought to people that will continue to ripple out long past, when you and I have ceased to be in these human forms, right? Like our medicine, what we bring forward, it's so potent, it continues on. And I think that that is absolutely incredible. So like, just thank you. Thank you for doing this work. Thank you for being bold and brave and courageous, because not many people are willing to do it.
Well, thank you. It's truly my pleasure. It's truly my pleasure and my passion. And there are one thing that you mentioned talking about like the powers that be create structures that kind of oppress these really potent sexual energies, right? The current world that we live in isn't, for most people, incredibly conducive for building a healthy relationship to your body and a healthy relationship to your sexual energies. And I want to, like, it's so true. It's so true. And one of the beautiful things and the most fulfilling things about the work that I do is gifting this safe space for all of that to exist. And in a session with me, many times, the men who come and see me for a body work session, because I also work with people virtually, but the men that come to see me for a body work session, they want to connect with somebody else sexually. And I don't think they're consciously aware of it, but again, they want to return to God. They want to return to loving acceptance and nurturing. And I am privileged and honored to be able to gift their body, no matter the shape, size, or age, no matter like how much it fits into conventional beauty standards. I'm able to gift it this beautiful love. And I'm a big believer that we all, like, fundamentally, we all need and deserve erotic touch. We all fundamentally need and deserve sensual connection. It is a human need. And there is so much judgment and stigma and hate and shaming and body standards and all of this stuff in every culture. I'm in it in the gay community, right? That's what I know and live. But there are so many men out there, because of these structures that be, because of the world that we live in, that it's not easy for them to find these spaces. It's not a natural thing for these spaces to just be ready for them to enter and to feel loved and feel accepted. And so I get to give that to them. And I've had sessions where men are literally in tears at the end of it because they've never felt, or maybe it's been a really long time, or they forgot what it felt like to really come home to God or come home to this sense of being truly loved and accepted in all of them.
So good. It's so good. Oh my God. And that's just it sounds like very, very fulfilling work. That's actually one of the things I love about Reiki itself is with Reiki, it's like in the traditional sense, where it's all platonic touch. And so there's a space for both, right? Sensual and platonic. So having somebody come into your space and like that not even being part of it, right? Being able to just be touched in a safe way, a gentle way, right? And then you just took it to this totally new place. And I think that that is incredibly beautiful and impactful. And, I know that happen to know, and I don't think you'll mind me sharing that in human design, for those of you who are familiar with it, Stephen is a sacral generator, so am I. So, you're really tapping into your gifts and capacities, working with what you were built to do as well, and those sacral energies. And that's just, it's a gift that continues, right? It's past your sessions, it keeps going. And I think that that is really beautiful. And something you said too is like, maybe they're not thinking like, I want to go return to God, right? That's not the thought process, but there is this instinct and urge. And especially if they're attracted to you and the type of work you do, that is ultimately what they're desiring, even if they're not consciously aware of it. And so being able to hold all of those spaces is really, really beautiful. So where do you see your business moving to, like, from
What a great
here?
question. I say that I'm on season 1 right now. I'm on season 1. And there are so many different avenues that I want to take this. There are so many different directions because I'm one person, right? I can only do so many in-person bodywork sessions, but I would love to create like a tagline that I am playing with is like returning the gaze to God. You know,
That's fantastic. I love it.
and I want to, where do I see this going? I don't know exactly what in the 3D world it will look like, but what I want to spread, the messaging that I want more people to adopt and learn and embody is that God and our sexuality is one and the same. And there is a path, like me, who were just so violently damaged by organized religion around their sexuality. There is a path home. I want to bring people back to God, and you can do that through sex. And it's something that 3 years ago you would have told me this. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know? So I want to bring more people to deeper into their sexualities and deeper into acceptance in their sexualities and loop that into a connection with God and the universe or whatever that feels comfortable for them. And I also want to help decondition what I've been as the sexual ego. And this is a new concept that it's been on my mind for a while, but I want other people to learn how to connect with themselves and others in a sexual way that it is more authentic and it is more natural to their innate being and less of a conditioned response or a mimicking of what they've seen in culture. Because I think there's so much shadow that plays out there. And it's kind of like monkey see, monkey do. We're not taught any better. We don't learn any better. We don't have any examples of more embodied sexual experiences with, the lens of it being a true act of God. So I want to help teach people how to slow down and what does it look like when we undress each other first? Or what does it look like when we have conversations before we engage sexually? What does it look like when we really go into this really intimate and vulnerable experience together in a way that's purposeful and meaningful and deeper than just getting off or doing what we've seen?
That, yes to all of that. I'm so I'm so excited to like watch you move forward and to like witness as everything evolves. I'm so curious too, like how are you supporting yourself holding other people in this way? Like just taking a second to like dive into that, like your self-care, like how are you as a channel, as a healer, right, as a human being, how are you taking care of yourself so that it's not depleting to you, so that it doesn't become another space? Because so many healers, they enter into the sacred healing realm however that looks for them, and then they end up becoming depleted. What do you do?
Yeah, so this is where I'm so entirely grateful for you in so many other ways too. But one phrase that I love that you've taught me is our prices protect us for our services. And I love that. So I charge quite a bit of money. I value my services highly so that the people who come to see me are investing and it's an equal exchange. So I'm valuing my services in a way that feels like a contribution and not depletion. On top of that, I also take care of my body really well. And I have a membership to the spa and I go and I soak in my mineral bath every day. And I really am it's an ever growing kind of thing because the way that I grow and how I support others, like I've also then got to up my personal support game as well. So my prices are one thing, my body care, exercise, eating well, spa time is another, and then another thing that you've taught as well is just the 5 connection points of connecting to God, connecting to Gaia, connecting to our higher selves, connecting to other safe humans, and connecting to ascended masters and beings. And that's something that I'm really leaning deeply on to feel supported in every way that I can.
Yeah, that when I finally it landed after, decades worth of doing a lot of spiritual work, that landed into those 5 connection points. And I was like, oh my God, yes. Like, thank you for this. Cause now I can understand why it is more complex and we have to tend to it like a garden. And I think it's really beautiful how you are tending to it like a garden. You are including all of those points and really like cultivating that. And like you said, it's ever evolving, but you're staying connected to yourself, you're staying connected to your business, you're staying connected, to your body, to your clients. I really believe that our businesses have their own consciousness. And so it's a living organism, and that's just so beautiful. And that's the standards, right? Like we have to set the standards, and the standards is the lowest common denominator of what we're willing to accept. And so, reflecting what you were talking about with the prices, like our prices protect us and our clients, because when you develop your medicine over a long period of time, a lot of cases, many lifetimes even, there's a potency to it. And so our pricing allows people to really truly invest and be ready, right? Because if they're gonna say yes to you and your pricing, they have to really be ready to receive and honor and respect what it is you're doing there. So that when you come into that space as the healer, you can really open yourself up and pour your medicine into your clients and have them actually integrate it. And just like I say, if you were to go to the doctor, right, you don't want the wrong person, you don't want the wrong prescription, you don't want the wrong dosage or the wrong length of time. So fine tuning that, I think that is pricing is part of that, and all of the self-care. And in order for you to have a lifestyle where you can go to the spa every day, where you can take good care of yourself, it also requires money. And this is coming through really strongly. My channel is always open for healers. This is a huge part of it. And this also segues into the divine masculine piece of the energetics of money as well, is letting ourselves be supported, letting ourselves feel safe and protected and guided. And that does not exclude, just like you're not excluding the body from healing. We're not excluding money from being the human experience, and allowing ourselves to be deeply supported and loved and cared for by our clients as well. And that alone is high. That in and of itself is high sensation. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. So thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you. We are definitely going to be doing this again. We're going to be going
Yes.
even deeper into all the things, but thank you so much, Stephen. I will make sure to drop links for you. So if anybody wants to reach out to you and connect with you, is there anything that you would like to say, or a way that you just want to speak out loud that people can connect to you?
Yeah, so currently Sacral Steve is my Instagram handle, and that's the best place to reach my podcast. There's a link to work with me there, and then there's also just keeping up with me. So it's Sacral Steve, SACRALSTEVE, no dashes, hyphens, or anything like that. That's my Instagram. There's more to come, but that's the best place for now to keep up with me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And we will meet again.
Awesome. Well, thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, thanks. Take care.